right, Yankees fans, buckle up, because this one's going to get interesting. The rumors are heating up, the speculation's everywhere. And yes, we're diving right into it. Pete Alonso and the possibility of him wearing pinstripes. Just imagine that for a second. Picture Pete stepping up to the plate in Yankee Stadium, right in the heart of that lineup, sandwiched between Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. That visual alone is enough to get any Yankees fan excited. 3 absolute power machines in a row. If that ever happens, the middle of that order would be a nightmare for pitchers, an absolute show for fans, and a fireworks display every other night in the Bronx. But here's the catch. Does it really make sense for the Yankees to make that kind of move? Let's break it down. Pete Alonso, no question about it, is an elite hitter. He's the kind of guy who can change a game with one swing. But he's also the kind of hitter who rides streaks. When he's hot, he's one of the best in baseball. When he's cold, you feel every bit of that slump. This past season told the same story we've seen before. He got off to a strong start, had that brutal July. We're talking a batting average around 140 and an OPS barely cracking 500. It was rough. But credit where it's due, Pete bounced back in a big way. His final 2 months were fantastic. In August, he crushed it with an OPS over 909 home runs. And he followed that up in September with nearly identical numbers. So, yeah, he can absolutely produce. You don't hit almost 40 home runs in a season by accident. The guy's got real pop. Now, the big debate isn't just about what Alonso brings with the bat. It's what comes with him defensively and financially. Word is, Pete's looking for a long-term deal. Something in the range of 7 years. And if you're talking about a player who's turning 31 by opening day, that's a big commitment. If he expects something close to $30 million a year, you're talking over $200 million total. Even if that number drops a bit to $27 million per year, that's still a huge contract for a first baseman who, let's be honest, isn't exactly a defensive wizard. Last season, by most defensive metrics, he ranked among the worst first basemen in baseball. -9 defensive runs saved, -8 fielding run value, and -9 outs above average. That's not ideal. You don't sign Pete Alonso for his glove. You sign him for the bat, period. And that's where things get tricky for the Yankees. Because right now, they already have a long-term plan to manage Aaron Judge's workload. Judge isn't going anywhere, but as he gets deeper into his contract, the Yankees want to protect his body. That means fewer games in the outfield and more time as the designated hitter. Once Giancarlo Stanton's contract is up, and that's coming in about 2 seasons, the DH spot likely becomes Judge's home. So if you bring in Alonso, who's destined to move to DH sooner or later, what do you do then? You can't have 2 designated hitters clogging the lineup. Somebody would be out of position, and that's not how you build a winning roster. That's why some Yankees fans are hesitant about this move. Sure, it sounds amazing on paper. Another big bat, more home runs, a terrifying middle order, but the balance of the team matters. If Alonso's defense becomes a liability and he can't play first every day, then you're cornered. You'd have to shift Judge or Alonso to DH, and that limits flexibility. Remember Jason Giambi? Same story. Phenomenal hitter, loved by fans, but the glove was always a problem. The Yankees learned from that era that you can't build an entire roster around just power bats who can't play the field. If we're talking numbers and contracts, a 4-year deal would make way more sense for someone like Alonso. Something around $115 to $125 million. That feels fair. He gets his payday. The Yankees get a slugger without being tied down until he's nearly 40. But here's the thing. Alonso reportedly wants that 7-year deal, and that's where negotiations could get messy. A shorter deal might not be enough to lure him away from the Mets or another big market team willing to throw long-term money at him. Now, let's think about how Alonso actually fits the Yankees lineup. Pete is a right-handed power bat, and while he crushes right-handed pitching surprisingly well, his numbers against lefties are just decent, not elite. Meanwhile, the Yankees already have young players like Ben Rice who need reps. Rice, a lefty, has had trouble hitting against left-handed pitchers, but if you add Alonso to the mix, it doesn't really help solve that problem. You're basically doubling down on a similar weakness. And if Rice and Austin Wells are both on the roster come opening day, adding Alonso could create more questions than answers. Where does everyone play? Who's getting the majority of at-bats at first base or DH? It just doesn't line up neatly. Some people think this whole Alonso to the Yankees talk might just be part of the usual negotiation games between agents and teams. Maybe it's a way to put pressure on the Mets to act faster when Alonso hits free agency. His agent, Scott Boras, is known for this kind of tactic, floating interest from other big franchises to get leverage. And who better to use in that narrative than the Yankees? It's the oldest trick in the book. You drop the Yankees' name in the mix, and suddenly, everyone's paying attention. Still, let's play the what-if game for a minute. Let's say the Yankees do decide to make a splash and sign Pete. They'd instantly add one of the premier power bats in the league. No question, the lineup would look absolutely stacked. But there's also the future to think about. A 7-year deal would take Alonso through age 38. That's a long time to be paying top dollar for a player who's probably going to be a DH by his mid-30s. It's a massive risk, and we've seen how long heavy contracts can come back to haunt teams when players age faster than expected. If you're the Yankees and you have that kind of money to spend, there might be smarter options. Look at Cody Bellinger, for example. He's versatile, he's athletic, and he can handle the outfield. Sure, he's not a perfect fit in center field anymore. The defensive metrics show he's about average there, but he's an excellent corner outfielder. In right field last season, he had 8 defensive runs saved, and he's still a solid option at first if you ever need him there. So, if the Yankees were to spend big money, Bellinger might actually make more sense than Alonso. He gives you more flexibility defensively, and he's still in his early 30s. And then there's the dream scenario, one that every Yankees fan secretly wishes for. What if they just went all in? What if they brought in both Bellinger and someone like Kyle Tucker? Tucker is younger, he's a better all-around offensive player, and he's elite defensively. Sure, he'd cost a fortune, but if you're already opening up the checkbook, why not aim for the stars? Tucker's just entering his prime, and pairing him with Judge would create one of the scariest corner outfields in the league. But again, this is the Yankees we're talking about. They've been cautious with long-term commitments lately, and while fans would love to see a spending spree, the front office might have other priorities. So here's where it all circles back. Pete Alonso, as good as he is, might not be the perfect fit for what the Yankees need right now. He's an incredible hitter, no doubt, but the team already has big bats. What they need more than anything is balance, athleticism, defense, speed, and consistency. Alonso gives you power, but not much else. If you're building for the future, if you're thinking about how to manage Judge's career and keep the roster versatile, then you have to think long-term. Still, the idea of Pete Alonso in pinstripes is fun to think about. The image of him sending balls into the bleachers at Yankee Stadium, the sound of that bat echoing through the Bronx. Yeah, it's tempting. Fans would go crazy, the energy would be off the charts, and he'd instantly become one of the most talked about players in New York. But baseball isn't just about hype, it's about fit, balance, and longevity. And that's where this move becomes a real debate for the Yankees front office. Now, let's keep going with this Yankees and Pete Alonso conversation because it's not as simple as just throwing money at a power hitter and calling it a day. When you look deeper, there are layers to this situation. Roster construction, future planning, positional overlap. All of it matters. The Yankees have been through this before. Big names, huge contracts, tons of excitement, and then years later, everyone wonders why the team is paying so much money for someone who's only filling half a role. That's exactly what could happen with Alonso if the front office isn't careful. Pete's value is clear. He's one of the best home run hitters in the league. Since his debut, he's been right near the top in long balls, and even when he's struggling, pitchers respect him because he can turn any mistake into a souvenir. That kind of presence in a lineup has real value, especially in Yankee Stadium, where the ball carries and the fans feed off energy. But what the Yankees have to decide is whether that value outweighs the long-term issues. Signing him would be like doubling down on offense while ignoring other areas that still need improvement. One of the Yankees' biggest issues lately hasn't been a lack of power. It's been consistency. They go through stretches where they look unstoppable, then weeks where the bats completely disappear. Adding Alonso might fix that temporarily, but it doesn't solve the core problem. You need hitters who can grind out at-bats, make contact, move runners over, and keep rallies alive. Alonso's approach is all about damage. Home runs, extra base hits, driving in runs. It's great when it works, but when he's cold, it's long flyouts and strikeouts. And that's exactly the kind of offensive inconsistency that has frustrated Yankees fans for years. Then there's the question of where Alonso fits defensively, because right now, the Yankees already have a logjam at first base and designated hitter. Ben Rice is coming up as a promising young option. Austin Wells is expected to get plenty of chances, and then you've got Judge and Stanton to manage. Stanton's contract runs for 2 more years, and everyone knows the Yankees are planning ahead for when he's gone. Judge will likely transition into that DH role to keep his body healthy, especially if the team wants him productive into his late 30s. So, adding Alonso could throw that entire plan off balance. You'd essentially be committing to having 2 DHs for several years, and that's just not sustainable if you're trying to build a flexible lineup. Defensively, Alonso is what he is. You can't sugarcoat it. He's below average at first base. He doesn't have great range, his footwork can be rough, and his defensive metrics confirm what the eye test says. The Yankees have spent the past few seasons emphasizing better defense behind their pitchers, and adding Alonso would go in the opposite direction. He's the kind of player you tolerate in the field because of his bat, not because he makes your defense better. The problem is, in the American League East, you need both. You can't just slug your way past teams like the Orioles or the Rays. You have to play complete baseball. Financially, too, this move would be a major commitment. Let's say Alonso does get his wish, 7 years at nearly $200 million. That would mean the Yankees are locking up huge money in Judge, Garrett Cole, and Alonso, with Stanton still on the books for a little while longer. That's a lot of payroll tied to players in their 30s, and that kind of structure limits what you could do elsewhere. The Yankees have already been hesitant about going over the luxury tax line again, and a contract like Alonso's would almost guarantee it. Sure, the Yankees can afford it, but it's about flexibility. You don't want to get stuck when a bigger opportunity comes around. And that's where Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker come back into the picture. Bellinger isn't perfect, but he gives you versatility. He can play the corners, handle first base if needed, and provide strong defense. He's not a full-time center fielder anymore, but he still gives you solid value all over the field. That's something Alonso can't offer. With Bellinger, you get a player who can adapt as the roster evolves. Tucker, on the other hand, is a total package: contact, power, speed, and defense. He's younger, and he fits the mold of what the Yankees need to balance their lineup. The cost would be steep, but you'd be paying for a player who can impact the game in multiple ways. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. The Bronx is buzzing tonight. According to sources close to the team, the New York Yankees have officially sealed the deal with TREVOR BAUER, the controversial but undeniably talented right-hander. After months of speculation and quiet negotiations behind the scenes, it appears that the Bronx Bombers have finally pulled the trigger on one of the most polarizing moves in recent memory. Fans poured into social media as the rumor spread like wildfire late Wednesday night. TREVOR BAUER, once thought to be blacklisted from Major League Baseball, is heading to Yankee Stadium. The news hit like a fastball under the lights, shocking even the most connected insiders. The Yankees, a franchise that thrives on both tradition and spectacle, might have just added their most intriguing piece in years. BAUER, who last pitched in Japan following his controversial exit from MLB, has made no secret of his desire to return to the big leagues. His performances overseas were nothing short of dominant, and his social media presence kept him in the spotlight, for better or worse. Now, with the ink drying on what insiders call a prove-it deal, he's set to don the famous pinstripes. Inside the organization, opinions are divided. Some executives reportedly pushed hard for the signing, believing BAUER's competitive fire and advanced pitching analytics fit perfectly with the team's modern approach. Others worried about the potential distractions that might follow. Yet, as one anonymous front office member reportedly put it, if you want to win in the Bronx, sometimes you have to take big swings. For Yankee fans, the excitement is undeniable. BAUER's arrival injects both hope and drama into a roster already brimming with star power. Could this be the missing piece that propels the Yankees back to the World Series? Or will it turn into another high-profile gamble gone wrong? One thing's certain, the Bronx is alive with energy, speculation, and that unmistakable New York swagger. TREVOR Bauer is a Yankee, and for better or worse, baseball just got a lot more interesting. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.